I'm going to show you the books we got in each place, whether it was at a certain store or online, and we'll go ahead and get started. One of the places that we visited this month was the Almost Perfect bookstore. I forgot the name of the city that it is, but it's somewhere in North California. It's near Sacramento, and it is amazing. That place is all used books, and you basically get them for half price of the list price, and it's literally a sea of books, just piles and piles of books. You cannot find anything unless you literally search and dig through the mountains of books that are in that building. So Fiance and I were able to find a lot of books we wanted and want to collect, and some of them were for series that we have started but need to complete. So we were very excited about that, and I'll show you a picture of the bookstore. This is what it looks like. First book I'm going to show you from there is this one. It doesn't have a dust jacket, unfortunately, but it is 7 science fiction novels by H.G. Wells. I hope you can kind of see it. And I think it was a good deal. We got it for $10, and it's hardcover, and it's like new inside, honestly, and it's 7 whole novels inside. So I think it's amazing that we can add this to our classics collection. My fiance has been looking forward to reading War of the Worlds, so that one is in here, and now he can read it, now I can read it. So that's all I'm going to say about that. Another classic that we got was this one, is 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. It's, I believe, something that is of a very passionate love story and kind of a historical setting, and I'm very excited to read this because I've heard from my aunt that she really liked this. It's a really good book, and he does have other books. I think he wrote Love in a Time of Cholera, which is something that I also want to read, and maybe also eventually read it in the Spanish version and compare and see how the original compares to the English edition of it. Another couple of books that I've been trying to add into my classics collection is Jane Austen books, and the ones that I found at the Almost Perfect bookstore is Emma by Jane Austen and Persuasion by Jane Austen. So now I have these two to add to my collection, and they are tiny pocket books, so they were $1 and $2 each, and they smell so good because they're older edition. I think this is an older edition. This one's not so old, but it's just, I love the way the older pages smell. So those are the classics. Last time I did a book haul, I showed The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson, and we were lucky enough to find Mistborn, which is the first book in that trilogy, in that world that he wrote. And I couldn't believe my fiance found this in the piles and piles of books that were at that bookstore. When he found it, it was an obvious yes, for sure, we're getting it. So we got it. I think we got it for $4, which is half price of list price, not so bad. And now we have the first 2 books in that trilogy, and they're in the same pocketbook edition, so they match. So I'm very happy about that. Another series that I've been trying to complete is Outlander by Diana Gabaldon, and the only book I was missing was the 7th book, so when I saw this, I had to get it. It is the 7th book called An Echo in the Bone. And this one does not match the ones that I have, because I have the larger trade back edition paperbacks, and this one is the pocketbook version. But compared to the price of the other one, I believe the hardcover was about $15 at the used bookstore. So this one was a much better deal for me, and it's a little easier to carry around in my purse. So when I do get to it, it'll be better for me to read on the go. Now, the basis of the first book is around historical fiction, romance, and time travel, so it's very intriguing. There's a lot going on. It's terrifying and horrifying and amazing and intriguing and addicting, and it's just so good. I highly recommend it if you like any of those topics. So now I have all of them. The next 2 novels I'm going to show you are a witch series that I found called Sweep, and it's these 2 here. It's actually 2 different volume bind-ups of each one has 3 books in that series. So this one has books 1 through 3. This one has books 10 through 12, I believe. And Basically, the series is called Sweep. The first book is called Book of Shadows. It's a young adult witch series, and I really wanted to read this. When I saw these at the bookstore, I decided to get them since it's a good deal, since I paid $4 for each, and each volume has 3 novels. So I'm not sure if I find them used eventually, I'll get the rest of them. And for now, these are the ones I have, so I'm excited to get started with the first 3. Another magical witch series that I've been trying to complete is the All Souls trilogy by Deborah Harkness. And the first book is called A Discovery of Witches, that I mentioned in my TBR. I have not read it yet, but I was able to find the 3rd book, the Book of Life, and I'm just really excited to read it. I know it's about this young female who is, I believe, a university student in England, and she discovers some stuff about witches, and I'm really excited because I think there's time travel and magic and love, so I'm really excited to read this trilogy. One of the authors that I haven't read any books for, but I've heard a lot about, is V.E. Schwab, the author of The Darkest Shade of Magic, which is a book that is on the top of my wish list. And we actually found another one of her books, which was this one, The Archived. I think this is the first book in this series. I don't know if it's a series or a trilogy, but my fiance and I have been wanting to read some of her books, so when we saw this, it's in mint condition, we had to get it. I don't know much about it, so I can't tell you, and if you can tell me, that would be great. Thanks. I believe in my previous book haul, I mentioned some of the Cinda Williams-Chima books for the Warrior Heir series, and here we were able to find another one in that series that we didn't already own, so we had to get it, and that's The Wizard Heir. I think this is the 3rd in the series, not completely sure, but it is. Okay, I think it is a series about magic and fantasy. Honestly, that is all I know about it because I'm very bad like that. I just keep collecting books, but I've heard her books are really great, and I'm really excited to eventually read these, maybe start the first book in 2016. So if you've read these, would you let me know if you liked it and what kinds of things I can look forward to. Since my fiance and I really enjoyed reading The Fifth Wave by Rick Yancey, when he saw this one, he had to get it since he also wrote this book. It is The Extraordinary Adventures of Alfred Krupp, and I believe it's about a young man who goes into some adventures regarding legends about King Arthur, and I think it's kind of urban fantasy, but it sounds exciting and kind of fun, and I don't think I will be reading this anytime soon because I do still have to read the rest of his other books, so, but it's good to have in the collection, so that's that one. As I mentioned before, I've been collecting Diana Gabaldon's Outlander series, and another book that I was able to find at this bookstore was one that I already had in pocketbook form, but it didn't match with the ones that the editions that I've been collecting. So when I saw this one, I had to get it, and that's the 4th one in the Outlander series, Drums of Autumn. And this one, it was not as cheap, but it was, oh, it's cheaper than full price. I think full price is like 15 bucks, and I got it for like $7. So I had to get it, and it's so big. I'm so glad I have the pocketbook edition as well when I did get to read it, because this is heavy and it's huge to carry around in a purse. So yes. Another bookstore we visited was actually our library's used bookstore in our city, and it's actually one of my favorite places to shop for books lately. I'm so lucky that we have that bookstore because they sell books sometimes way cheaper than half price. We end up finding a lot of great deals for very popular books sometimes. So I'll go ahead and get started. One of the books that I found was Shopaholic Takes Manhattan by Sophie Kinsella from the Confessions of a Shopaholic series. I have not read that series yet, but I have read one of her young adult books called Finding Audrey, which was very, very funny, and I really liked her writing style, so I decided to get these whenever I find them at used bookstores or thrift stores. And I think this is the 3rd book in the Shopaholic series, so I can't tell you much about it other than it's about a girl who's a shopaholic and she does things. I also found All the Bright Places. not that expensive. But I couldn't pass up buying it because it's like new and I really want this book, and well, that's about it. I've just heard great things about it. I heard that it's kind of sad. I think it's sort of a mix between drama, contemporary type of genre, fiction. I'll explain it since I don't know. I just know that I want to read it. Another book I got. I also got this book called Middlesex by Jeffrey, that's his last name. I can't say it, I don't want to try. So when I saw this book, I recognized the title, and I recognized that I've been curious about it because I've considered buying it from used thrift stores before, but I just never picked it up since I didn't know enough about it. So I decided to read the synopsis, and then I didn't quite understand fully what it was about. So I decided to read the first page, and when I did, I got a more accurate description of kind of what the book is about. And it seems to me that it's about a transgendered person. It says, I was born twice, first as a baby girl on a remarkably smogless Detroit day in January of 1960, and then again as a teenage boy in an emergency room from near Petoskey, Michigan. Transgendered person, an individual who might go through a lot of things, and it's basically a book about their experiences. So I'm really excited to read something like this. I don't think I've ever read something like this. So if any of you have read this or any other books about transgender or any people who might go through a sex change or are reborn in a different gender, you can go ahead and let me know if this is something that you enjoy. I also went ahead and bought a copy of The Storyteller by Jodi Picoult, and I have heard a lot about some of her books, some of them being Between the Lines and Off the Page. That's her book that she co-writes, I think, with her daughter. And also My Sister's Keeper is one of her books, and I decided to buy this one since it's really cheap and it sounded really interesting to me. Another author that I've heard a lot about is actually this one right here, the Queen of Contemporary, Sarah Dessen. I have yet to read one of her books. I've actually made it one of my goals in 2016 to read at least one of her books because I have collected about 4 of them so far and I haven't read any yet. So I went ahead and purchased this one. This one is Lock and Key. I don't know what it's about, but I know that I want to read it. I guess it's about a girl and the boy next door. Maybe they fall in love. Maybe there's some drama in there. I don't know. But I'm really excited to read some of her books. And then I found this book right here. This was like an impulse buy, to be honest. I believe it's called Anno Dracula. So, by Kim Newman. I believe it's something to do with Queen Victoria being remarried, and she has to take her new consort, the Wallachian prince, and famously known as Count Dracula. So I believe it's, you know, there's some historical and some Queen Victoria in there and some Count Dracula. I really think that this is a very interesting topic and subject. I really like vampires. I like things that have to do with historical type of themes. So I'm really excited to maybe one day read this. Another huge deal we found at that bookstore was Winter's Tale by Mark Helprin. I did already own the movie edition, but this one was $1, and I think it's much more beautiful than the movie edition cover. It was $1, so I was really excited. It's huge. This is a love story that takes place in New York City, and I believe there's a lot of drama going on. It seems like a lot of complex themes, maybe. My fiance's best friend really loved this book, and she highly recommends it, so I'm really excited to read it. I don't know when I'll get to it, but it's just gonna go on to that mountain of books to be read that I have. Shame. Another thing my fiance and I tend to do is collect a lot of Stephen King books, even though neither of us has read his books. I think it's because we know deep down that we want to read his books. As you can see behind me, there are some of his books displayed. I don't know if you can see from the lighting, but we found a couple. We found this one by Stephen King, The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. We found this one, Lizzie's Story. It's huge, and I think each of them were 50 cents, which is insane because these are huge. And I think these are some of the least popular ones, but I don't care. I want to read his books. I want to read all of them if I can eventually. So we went ahead and purchased them. The next book is this one, A Thousand Splendid Suns, which is the sequel, I believe, to The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini. I have not read The Kite Runner yet. My fiance has, I think for a class, but he wants to reread it. And I honestly think this is one of those that we have to read. It sounds like something very deep and interesting to read about. So we went ahead and got it. We didn't just buy one book that we already owned, which is Winter's Tale. We bought another one that we already owned, but this time in hardcover, and that's The Wolf Gift by Anne Rice. We already owned the paperback edition, and we were very annoyed that the second book is hardcover and didn't match our paperback. So when we found the first book in hardcover, it's like new, and it has those very pretty side pages. We decided to get it, and it's just so gorgeous. It was like $3, and yes, I believe it's about werewolves. Overall, this is one of the authors that I keep collecting books for, and I want to get to really soon. I want to read this series, and her Witch series, and her Vampire Chronicles series, and her Sleeping Beauty series. So we've been collecting Anne Rice books, and this one is just gorgeous because it's so golden white and beautiful. I already mentioned this book, Diana Gabaldon's An Echo in the Bone. Yes, I did find it in large version book, not in paperback, but I couldn't pass up the opportunity to have one that matches similar to my paperbacks for the rest of the other books like this. See how it's closer in size than that pocketbook. So now I have the pocketbook and the hardcover for this one. It is gorgeous, and I couldn't not get it since it was $2. When I saw this, I was so glad that we didn't buy it at the Almost Perfect bookstore because this one was so much cheaper, and it's like new. I can't believe someone would just donate it and then they would sell it for just $2. I already mentioned the All Souls trilogy by Deborah Harkness. So here I got The Shadow of Night, which is the second book, and this one actually I bought online at I think it was thriftbooks.com. And yeah, I sometimes when I need a book and I want to use and I need to complete a series, I look on there and I tend to find some good books and good deals in there. Another book that I got at Thrift Books that in that order was Slammed by Colleen Hoover. I have heard marvelous things about this author. I have not yet read any of her books, but I know that if I want to start reading her books, this is the first one that I want to read by her. And I think there is another book after this already out. I don't know if it's just a duology. Can't tell you what it's about because I honestly don't know. I just know that I really want to read it. And I don't like to read synopses. Like I said, I just go by what people recommend online. So, here it is. Another one that the last book that we got from Thrift Books was this one right here. It's The Mime Order by Samantha Shannon. This is the second book in the Bone Season series. I think it's going to be a 7-book series, and I think it's about magical, mystical, sort of sci-fi kinds of themes. I have yet to read The Bone Season, but my fiance and I really have been wanting to read that book for a while, so when we saw this deal on Thrift Books, we decided to get it. So now we have the first 2 books. Last but not least, my fiance and I were watching YouTube. We binge watch on book hauls, and we found out that this one right here, and its beautiful black pages, Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo's book, is a limited edition first print. So we really wanted those black pages on our shelf because they look gothic and beautiful and unique, and we went and looked everywhere. We called Walmart, Target, we called all these stores, and nobody had the book. So we ended up going to Barnes & Noble, and we purchased this one full price, and we do not regret it because it's beautiful, and I think it's all worth it. And no, I have not yet read the Grisha trilogy, and yes, I want to read it soon, as I mentioned in my TBR. So at least now I have this in my collection. Get these books, aren't they neat? Wouldn't you say my collection's complete? you've made it to the end of that super long book haul for November 2015. My wrist hurts from listing all those books and showing them to you. So, if you made it this far, thank you once again for watching. I really enjoy commenting and talking about books, so don't be shy and let me know what you think about any of these books if you've read, or if you're looking forward to reading any of these. Maybe we could do a read-along, and you can go ahead and add me on Goodreads and Instagram and all of those things. My links are down in the description. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more of my videos. So have a good December. Bye!